Welcome to our main news. We now take a look at stories making headlines. The Millers Association of Zambia MAZ has noted with concern that some FRA maize beneficiary millers have continued exploiting consumers with high milling meal prices. A lion is on the loose in Lusaka's Lai area, with residents being advised to take precautionary measures. And now the news in detail. Millers Association of Zambia MSZ President Andrew Chintala is concerned that some millers have continued exploiting consumers with high milling meal prices despite receiving subsidized maize from the Food Reserve Agency, FRA. Mr. Chintala notes that a number of retailers across the country are still selling a 25 kg bag of breakfast milling meal between 200 kwacha and 300 kwacha instead of 180 and 200 kwacha. He says it is a pity that consumers are being exploited by millers who have received maize from FRA. Mr. Chintala tells Q News that institutions charged with protecting consumers from being exploited should take interest and move in to help address the situation. He has warned millers found wanting of punitive action.
It's important. We would like to encourage the consumers. We are equally concerned with the trend, especially from some unscrupulous traders that are taking advantage of situations in some parts of the country, whereby I think they're exploiting consumers in terms of the price of the commodity. So we'd like to encourage and urge the consumers to buy this commodity from the milling companies or through the designated selling places for the milling companies. That way, it will ensure that you are paying the correct price for your commodity, other than paying much more in terms of what we've seen in some reports. So we'd like to say, look, take advantage of, I think we have opened a lot of selling points for various different millers across the country. And our appeal is that please buy these commodities from our designated selling places. That way, you'll be paying the correct and the right price for the commodity.
A lion is reported to be on the loose in Lusaka's Lilai area. In a statement, Ministry of Tourism Public Relations Officer Sakabilo Kalembwe says the Department of National Parks and Wildlife says it has received a report of a loose lion in Lilai area and that wildlife police officers and wildlife veterinary officers have since been deployed on the ground to collate facts and to take action if the lion is spotted. Mr. Kalembwe states that in the interest of preserving human life, residents of Lilai and surrounding areas are being urged to take precautionary measures, especially at night. He says residents should check the outside surroundings before going outside, restrict movements, and ensure to carry a torch when moving at night and avoid moving alone. Mr. Kalembwe has encouraged the residents to inform the Department of National Parks and Wildlife should they notice anything at any time of the day. Meanwhile, a 7-year-old boy in Nalolo's Namele village area of Chief Intopum has been killed after an adult male hippo hit the canoe he was in with his parents on 15th of February at around 13 hours, causing him to drown. Molongwe Neta met his fate when he and his parents were crossing the Zambezi from collecting food from Stengenia village. In another development, 3 goats and 1 dog were attacked at a farm belonging to Dr. Humphrey Chandas in Malamba village in Mongwe district of Northern Province by a rabid side-stripped jackal. Mr. Kalembwe says DNPW officers responded to the report and managed to control the animal, which was taken to the vet for rabies analysis, and the results came out positive. He adds that in Kapanda village in Chief Mwamba in the same district, 2 women from the same village, from the same family, Dorcas Walia with an 8-month pregnancy and Florence Walia, were beaten by another jackal. Mr. Kalembwe says women cried for help and some men from within the village managed to kill the beast. He says the animal has been taken to the vet for further analysis, awaiting results while the 2 women are being treated at Mongwe District Hospital. Minister of Defense Ambrose Lufuma says the ministry's cooperation between the military cooperation between Zambia and India must go beyond material support by including training and transfer of skills through exchange programs. Speaking after the 2023 Aero India Air Show in Bengaluru, Mr. Lufuma says that India is one of the countries which are top-notch in technological advancement, from which Zambia looks forward to learn in order to transform its defense forces. He says he is impressed with the combination of weaponry prowess display and cutting-edge technological evolution that India has invested in to ensure that its defense forces are adequately trained and that Zambia is eager to tap into this rich resource. Mr. Lufuma notes that India now offers quality equipment at an affordable price, unlike the Western and the Far East countries whose technology is either far too expensive or the quality does not match with the price, a situation he says gives a comparative advantage to India, which Zambia is ready to explore. He states that for Zambia, some of the fighter jets displayed and are made by India offer a better alternative. The 2023 Aero India Air Show, which ended on Sunday, attracted 737 exhibitors, of which 643 are Indian, while 94 are from 30 other countries. This is according to a statement by Benny Mundando, First Secretary Press at the Zambian Mission in New Delhi, India.
So we would like to cooperate more with India for us to be able to acquire some of this technology that they have. But more so would like this technical cooperation not only to be material but also in terms of training. And so we emphasized on training to be able to get some of our young men and women maybe to come over to India for some courses and to get some of the experts from India to go to our country in order to impart some of their knowledge into our Zambian officers and men and women in uniform. So this cooperation is what we would like to foster, and I'm sure the Indian government is ready to cooperate with us in that regard.
Chairman of Member of Parliament Yotam Tachalo says increasing electricity tariffs is not the solution to ZESCO's financial challenges. The power utility has made an application to the Energy Regulation Board, ARB, to increase electricity tariffs by 37%. But Mr. Mtachalo has wondered how the New Dawn administration will be able to bring down the cost of living in the country if the cost of fuel and electricity continue to increase. He has reminded the government to be mindful that the people of Zambia are already overburdened by the cost of fuel, which is increased almost on a monthly basis, thereby pushing upwards the cost of living. Mr. Mtachalo has recalled how President Hichilema, while in opposition, passionately spoke about lowering the cost of production, which he, however, notes has continued to increase. He notes that if not careful, the high cost of production will lead to job losses and exacerbate the high poverty levels in the country. Mr. Mtachalo says what ZESCO should focus on is to broaden its customer base so that it can generate more revenue. Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security Jack Mwimbu has clarified that the recruitment of border guards was advertised and applications received from members of the public, contrary to the assertions that this was done secretly. Mr. Mwimbu says advertisements were placed in the media and people responded, and those that were shortlisted were called upon to undergo training as border guards. He states that this is just the beginning, as the ministry will continue training border guards in an effort to curb crime that occurs at the borders and also looking at the number of borders Zambia has. Recently, the Ministry of Home Affairs and Internal Security announced the recruitment of 90 border guards under the Department of Immigration.
And inform the nation that we have advanced pertaining to the recruitment of border guards. We have recruited. We will be commencing the training of the border guards. Once we finalize, they will be deployed in various border areas. This is the first time that Zambia is employing border guards to ensure that our borders are secure. I know that the numbers are not adequate, but it's a blessing and it's pleasing to know that we have commenced the process of ensuring that there are personnel that will be guarding our borders. That process has commenced. We'll be starting the training very soon. And we did advertise in the public media for members of the public to respond, and members of the public responded accordingly.
Still in our local news, Forum Against Illiteracy, FI National Chairperson Dennis Kunda is calling on the government to strictly monitor publishers of educational books which have flooded the market. Mr. Kunda says government should take keen interest in knowing the kind of education books on the Zambian market because over the years, the Zambia education curriculum has seen the introduction of books that are misleading. He notes that some of these books do not have the required content for pupils, adding that the way they are outlined leaves much to be desired. Meanwhile, Mr. Kunda has welcomed calls by some education stakeholders to have assessment exams at grade 4. He says that this is a step in the right direction.
Children must be challenged. We need to produce people that are going to make a difference in this country, as opposed to just pushing children through, even when they are not able to perform. Performance is very important. I think you agree with me that even when you are talking about the employment sector, performance is key. So if a child is not able to perform at such an age, you obviously expect that you are going to have a product that is compromised. And in Zambia, I think we don't want to have that situation. This is the reason why I feel even the phasing out of automatic progression into grade 8, I think it's also a good move because we need to have products that are going to, get their children that are going to be in grade 8 and well prepared, children have performed very well. I will give an example of a child that has scored probably 300. And here in Zambia, we talk about the total score is 900. And you have a child that has failed by 600 marks and you want them to progress. Even if you are talking about them reaching grade 9 at some stage, you want to give them skills. Do you think they will be able to do that? Because they are not even able to read. So there's this literacy that they are lacking, which they haven't acquired. So you need to actually look at all that. And
his promise to reduce the price of mealie meal to 50 kwacha. One of the promises President Hichilema made while in opposition was to reduce the price of the staple food to 50 kwacha. Dr. Silombe is concerned that President Hichilema has clocked almost 2 years in office, yet mealie meal is still fetching between 195 kwacha and 200 kwacha for a 25 kg bag of breakfast mealie meal in some parts of the country.
There is no hope for the new Dawn government to reduce the cost of mealie meal. Look at the ZNS they have employed to actually to participate in the reduction of mealie meal. What is happening? They did not produce enough. There is no production. The only way we can reduce the cost of mealie meal to 50 kwacha and less is when we invest in production. When millions of young people are recruited in ZNS, where we can have state farms in every district, we produce enough maize and we produce mealie meal. And in that sense, we can see the cost of mealie meal going down. And we can only do that when we have ventured in production, both with fertilizer. We need to produce fertilizer here in Zambia. We need to produce enough maize. And when we do that, we will see the cost of mealie meal coming down. With this situation that we have seen, the new Dawn government has messed up FISIP. They were giving people little fertilizer. They gave contracts to Zambians to go and buy in foreign countries. This fertilizer was coming here at a very high cost, and they could not manage to give all the Zambian people who needed fertilizer. They were sharing in medals. That can never yield a bumper harvest. They've already messed up this season, this farming season, and if they don't do much in the next farming season, then it will be disastrous for them. And we project a looming famine as leadership movement in the 2023 period, because we did not take care of FISIP, and we are going to see low yields because there was no fertilizer supply. And these are the things that worry us. We do not see any hope that mini meal prices will be coming down. They can only come down when they are backed up by production.
The conduct of 2 Kasama teachers, among them a head teacher, who were found drinking at the time they were supposed to be in school, has disappointed teacher unions. Secondary Schools Teachers Union of Zambia General Secretary Sitivekiso Wamiwa says the union will not support any wrongdoing but call for appropriate action to be taken in such matters are brought to light. Mr. Wamiwa tells Q News that the Ministry of Education through the Teaching Service Commission should follow the right procedure in handling the matter so that at the end of the day no one will cry victim. He says the behavior of the 2 teachers is regrettable and is not something that can make anyone proud.
When it is happening, at the time when we already have our own Teaching Council of Zambia, which is a regulatory and professional body, to regulate and professionalize our own teaching profession. It's sad because if we do not respect our own profession, no one else will. Everybody else will look down upon us. It's sad that today even people are composing songs about teachers because of that same particular thing. It's embarrassing. And what is even making it sadder is that this seems to be a problem that has been ongoing. Both the head teacher and the other teacher who have been absent from work for a long time. Maybe in this other case 2 years. And that's what makes it very, very sad. Because one starts to wonder, where was the authority when the pupils were not learning for 2 years? Where was it? Are they able to control the damage that has already been suffered over a period of 2 years? I doubt very much. So I think our appeal also will go to authorities, to managers at every stage, be it a head teacher, a head of department, devs, PO. I think we must have got quick response to these problems, because the damage that is being suffered by the learners is irreparable in most cases. How can one be absent from duty for a year, even for a month, and nobody seems to care? So these are lessons that need to be learned by our administrators, our managers.
And the Zambia National Union of Teachers Director, Public Relations, Godwin Maseka, has wondered how the teachers would engage in illicit beer drinking since at the time they were supposed to be in class. Minister Maseka has since called on relevant authorities in the Ministry of Education to ensure that disciplinary procedures are adhered to in dealing with such a matter. He says the best way to discipline erring teachers is what stipulated as per Teaching Service Commission Code of Conduct.
One thing that must be appreciated is that even if you are employed, you are a manager, you are a CEO, you have no mandate to start pushing your own workers. As if you are pushing, even prisoners are not supposed to be pushed. A worker who is found wanting, your role is to take the disciplinary measures appropriately, not to an extent where you start pushing your fellow teachers. Debs does not come from Jupiter. Debs is an ordinary teacher who, by virtue of him having served, would eventually find himself or herself in the position of Debs. And therefore, even as we are managing disciplinary issues, respect is supposed to be accorded to your teachers, not where what we saw where teachers were being pushed. That is not supposed to be the case. However, we still want to appeal that let justice be carried out and would be able to make serious follow-ups regarding exactly what transpired. There are flaws in the whole clip if you look at it. Here is the head teacher who was saying, this teacher has been absent from work for almost 2 years. The question that arises, where was the head teacher all along? Secondly, where was the devs all along? They are also on the wrong side of the law, because the moment you don't act on a wrong, you are also on the wrong side of the law, because you don't wait until the situation deteriorates itself to what we saw on the media. What have they been doing, if at all they had observed what they did? They showed the media that day. So if the teachers have been drawing salaries for quite a long time, and they were supposed to take appropriate action, the maximum number of days, if at all the teacher is found wanting, is 10 days. But can it wait up to 2 years for you to take action? So one side of it all, you might appear as if you are so smart and you are doing your work. But on the other side of the law, you are also opening a Pandora box. What have you been doing all along before the situation could deteriorate itself to the levels that we saw on the camera? We are not defending, but we want to ensure that all responsible officers mandated to do what is expected or to be expected of them should act not emotionally, should not be reactive, but they must be able to act appropriately, precisely, at the right time.
The World Health Organization, WHO, has advised Zambians to seek medical attention from the nearest health facility whenever they experience symptoms of acute water diarrhea. WHO country representative Nathan Bakaita says people must desist from self-medication but seek medical attention from professionals. Dr. Bakaita says it is only health workers who can determine whether one has cholera or not. The country has recorded an outbreak of cholera with a number of districts recording cases.
I think the sensitization has been done through government agencies to let everybody know that we have cholera in the country. And also, if you notice that the cholera is happening in neighboring, close to districts that are bordering neighboring countries that have an issue. So government has alerted all the districts that border countries where there is a problem to be on high alert. So that is very important. But most importantly, for the person on the street, what is important, once we have cholera and there are movements all over, if you get any symptoms of acute watery diarrhea, don't try to handle it at home. Go to the nearest health facility and let the people there determine whether you have cholera or not. Don't try to manage it at home. I think for me that's the key message. Anybody with symptoms of acute watery diarrhea, please go to the nearest health facility and report.
The ruling UPND National Youth Chairman Gilbert Lisoniso has urged former President Edgar Lungu to let sleeping dogs lie. In a statement obtained by Q News, Mr. Lisoniso states that while the UPND has been tolerant of the maladministration of former President Edgar Lungu's government, this is not because they are scared, but because they wanted him to reflect on how much destruction he allegedly caused and appropriate a befitting apology to the Zambian people. He notes that it appears that their respect for former leaders and the rule of law is being taken for granted and dragged to the toilet. Mr. Lisoniso states that Mr. Lungu and the sympathizers pushing him towards a political grave should know that the UPND was elected to change the narrative of his misrule and the wanton raping of the Zambian economy through theft and corruption. He says the former president should not forget about how he recklessly drove the country into heavy indebtedness and how he took the country in the disastrous direction. Mr. Lisoniso says that the contrary, President Hakainde Hichilema is focusing on national development rather than retaining power. He says President's eyes are set on pursuing a united and prosperous Zambia for citizens. Mr. Lisoniso adds that the United Party for National Development, UPND government, is working extremely hard to make a turnaround of the mess created by the PF regime. The Petroleum Transporters Association of Zambia, PTSZ, is calling on the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, CEEC, to start giving loans to citizens in the fuel transportation business who qualify to benefit from the empowerment. PTSZ Secretary General Benson Tembo says it is time all citizens who qualify benefited from CEEC in the same manner that citizens in constituencies are benefiting from the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. Details in the following report.
For a long time now, petroleum tanker drivers have not been benefiting from the transportation of petroleum products despite a statutory instrument that allows local transporters to transport 50% of the commodity being in effect. It is for this reason that the Transporters Association is calling on the Citizen Empowerment Commission, CEEC, to ensure that citizens who are eligible to benefit from the commission according to the CEEC Act are certified. Benson Tembo is Petroleum Transporters Association of Zambia Secretary General.
The Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission to take keen interest, and in taking keen interest, we are proposing to the Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission to start issuing certificates to citizens who qualify under this law, so that these citizens can benefit in the same manner that citizens in constituencies are benefiting from the CDF. So we want CEEC not to confine themselves to only one area of economic activities. They must see to it that here where we are in the fuel transport sector, which is very lucrative, a sector where you foreigners can be seen driving flashy vehicles because we have become so loose in the manner that we handle the sector. We want citizens to fully benefit, not the way it has been all these years. If we are to see genuine progress, let us all see a filling station being built somewhere which is owned by a Zambian citizen. Let us see the oil marketing company that is running and bringing in the petroleum products is owned by a Zambian citizen. This is what we want to see, not what we have seen over the years, where multinational oil marketing companies have come and they have seen the loopholes in the manner that we are handling the petroleum products, and they are making huge profits out of it. Citizens are just watching. So it is our time, it is our year. The president has pronounced himself. We want to see genuine progress for Zambian citizens in the fuel transport subsector.
The ruling United Party for National Development, Luena Member of Parliament, Mobita Anakoka, says that those condemning President Hakainde Hichilema's international trips are merely playing politics. Mr. Anakoka says that President Hichilema has been prudent in the use of public resources as evidenced by the size of entourage whenever he travels abroad. He tells QTV News that the president is not carrying every Jim and Jack for joy rides whenever he is traveling. Mr. Anakoka states that no president can work without traveling to other countries for bilateral cooperation engagements. He states that there is no comparison between President Hichilema and any other president in the past when it comes to international trips.
If there has ever been a president that has been very prudent in his use of public resources, it's this president. First of all, look at the size of his entourage. He is not carrying every Jim and Jack for joy rides whenever he is traveling internationally. It is strictly business. Secondly, look at how long he takes. Sometimes just when people are hearing that the president has traveled out, he's already back. Because he goes strictly for business, and once the business is done, he gets back home and gets busy. So there is absolutely no comparison between this president and I think any other president in the past. Absolutely no comparison. Then let's look at what benefits are we getting out of this. You will know, you've been around, that previously when other presidents were traveling, they would just travel and come back without any indication of what is it that was the focus of this particular international trip. This president and the State House always communicates what are the issues that have been discussed. The president himself engages the nation. He will tell you when he has held a meeting with a particular individual or a particular organization and what was discussed. And the nation is therefore fully kept abreast in terms of what is the focus. We cannot run Zambia as an island. And Zambia needs to build strong economic and social partnerships with other countries. It's in the same way. Countries live in the same way that individuals live. We have to live.
Ministry of Green Economy and Environment Permanent Secretary John Msimoko has held the progress made by transforming landscapes for the resilience development tailored towards natural resources management in Mpika district. The Permanent Secretary said this after inspecting Kachamo Women's Cooperative and Fort Harris Skills Center in Mpika district. Mr. Msimoko notes that it was a very innovative idea for the President to create a special Ministry of Green Economy dedicated to transforming the economy of Zambia into a green economy, low-carbon economy, and socially inclusive economy. He states that this has placed the country in a special place not only in Africa, but across the globe. Mr. Msimoko says the people of Mchinga should expect green investment, better resilience towards negative effects of climate change. He further states that with the rich natural resources in Mchinga province, this must yield benefits to help local people.
You always say that it's probably one of the most innovative ideas brought by His Excellency the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to create a special ministry dedicated to transitioning the economy of Zambia into a green economy. Low carbon economy, socially inclusive economy. This is something that has placed our country in a very special place, not just in Africa, but also across the globe. So in terms of expectations, the people of Mchinga should expect green investments, better resilience towards climate change, negative effects of climate change. Because this is one province that is endowed with rich natural resources, particularly forests and water resources. This must yield benefits for the local people. So very soon we will be rolling out activities to do with the carbon trading. This is a new concept where benefits will accrue to those people that preserve the environment, they preserve the forests. There should be value that people should see in a tree beyond charcoal, for instance.
We now join DW with a roundup of international news.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that China may soon provide lethal assistance in the form of weapons and ammunition to Russia's war in Ukraine. Beijing has lashed out at what it calls false claims by the United States. Blinken issued the warning on a US talk show blitz after meeting with his counterpart Wang Yi at the Munich Security Conference and again while on a visit to NATO member Turkey.
We are concerned that China is considering supporting Russia's war effort in Ukraine with lethal assistance, something that we're watching very, very closely. As I also said, and as President Biden said, going back many months when the aggression first took place, and he spoke to President Xi Jinping, he told him at that point that there would be real consequences in our own relationship were China to provide lethal assistance to Russia in this aggression against Ukraine, or in a systematic way aid in the evasion of sanctions.
Joining me now is Director of SOAS China Institute at the University of London, Steve Tsang. Welcome to you. The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is expected in Moscow today. Yi talked peace in Munich. At the same time, many suspect Beijing may be on the verge of supplying weapons to Russia. Do you think a weapons trade is a possibility?
I would be very surprised if the Chinese government will supply weapon systems or ammunition to Russia, which will trigger secondary sanctions from the Western democracies. With the warning from Antony Blinken, it will be clear to the Chinese sanctions will be triggered, and I don't think they will act on it.
Yeah, if we play it out briefly, though, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned that China arming Russia would have serious consequences. What could those consequences be?
Well, those consequences is secondary sanctions. Chinese policy has been very clear from the start of the Russian invasion, and that policy is simply one of declaring neutrality, supporting Putin, and paying no price. Paying no price means not triggering secondary sanctions against China, but anything short of that, the Chinese will provide Russia and support Putin.
You talk about the possible US sanctions or secondary sanctions. How do you think Europe would react? Would it also be in line to sanction China if this goes ahead?
Well, the secondary sanctions is something that was agreed by the United States and the European allies, which was basically the form